Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope that all of you are having a great week so far. Students, this is a subscribers chat class, so to join the chat, simply just subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free. And then you can converse with your peers. In this class, everybody, we are looking at IELTS listening. Specifically, the listening topics will be about international trade and the famous Renaissance artist Michelangelo. Welcome, students. Hi, Anna. Hi, Elizabeth. Nice to see our members. Adedeji, Akira, Olive, nice to see some subscribers in the class as well. Lovely to have you with me. Everybody, this lesson, these materials, this listening exam is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. For those of you who are new to the IELTS exam, right off the bat, the listening section is the same for both the general and the academic versions of the test. It has 4 parts. Each part takes about 10 minutes to complete, roughly. And again, we have lots of listening exams on our websites that we will use today. This is our academic IELTS website here at aehelp.com. We will use this for our listening audio. And for the questions, to join the premium version of this website, click the big red button that's just right above my head there. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access. It doesn't cost much money, and you get tons and tons of materials. We're an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner. We're an IELTS test registration center, and we help thousands of students succeed on their IELTS exam every week. We are world leaders when it comes to IELTS exam preparation. You can read their stories on the website. For the general IELTS, gieltshelp.com, green background. Again, click this big red button that's just right above my head there. It's a one-time payment. You get lifetime access, and you can use the code Imagine9 for an extra 10% discount when you check out. The price is different in different countries, so check it out in your country. In some countries it's cheaper. We try to make the course available for as many people as possible. We'll come back to the website shortly to start our listening audio. We are working on our 5th IELTS exam, and we're going to be starting with section 3. Students, we do have apps for you as well. In your app store, check out Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help. The apps link to the websites so that you can study from the app or the website, and you can purchase the course through the app, through the website, or through YouTube by clicking the shopping and going to check out through Shopify. If you purchase through YouTube via Shopify, make sure to send us an email so we can activate your premium course. To follow us on Instagram, visit us on IG. IELTS_AEHelp or GIELTS Help. And if you have questions, just send an email. My email is adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. We usually get back to you within 24 hours or less. Students, there's writing and speaking help on the websites, lots more. We've got our schedule for the next 8 or 9 days or so. We've got listening right now, so we're going to focus on listening parts 3 and parts 4. This exam, listening part 1 and 2, we did just a little over a week ago, so if you missed it, you can check that out on YouTube in our archives. And then after this listening class in about 2 hours, we're going to have a speaking part 2 and speaking part 3 session that everybody can join. And that will be on the website. So the live chat function here on the website, or sorry, the live class function, I should say. Live class function there on the website. That's coming up in 2 hours, and that will be for speaking, and you can practice your speaking with me. All right. Just looking at the chat here to see if anybody has any questions before we dig in. Students, there's no class tomorrow, so November 1st, no class, but then November 2nd to the 4th, we've got more live classes for you on YouTube and on the website, and we will have new video releases on the YouTube channel as well. Gift Giver, we have a new video coming out to help you with writing, so check back on the channel. That will focus on task 1. Okay, so let's do this, everybody. We're going to do some listening in this class. And again, if you have questions and they're about other sections of the IELTS, like the writing or the speaking or the reading, you can ask. If I have a chance to answer, I will. And if I don't, just send an email, as I mentioned, and we will answer you via email. Okay? All right, everybody. So IELTS listening, let's get into it. We're going to, again, use this listening exam 5 from the website. This is going to be a little bit more challenging, excuse me, than part 1 or part 2. But that's okay. The first tip is, while you listen, just visualize, imagine what's going on, and use your own information. So this listening part 3 is discussing the trade between nations. So trading between countries, right? Now, when you see this kind of topic, you should immediately try to think about all of the words and knowledge that you have in English related to the topic. So this is kind of tip 1. As soon as you identify the topic, in this case, international trade, think about all of the English words and all of the knowledge you have on the topic. Okay, so here, when you think about international trade, what kind of information comes to mind? So what do you know about international trade? So for example, I know that human societies have been trading with each other across borders for thousands of years. What are some of the earliest kind of trades or trading interactions with humans that you know of? So who are some of the first nations or countries to trade? What are some of these famous parts of history? I'm sure that many of you know some of this information from your school years. So I definitely know that humans have been trading goods with each other for thousands of years, which means for millennia. Okay, millennia means thousands of years. Millennia with 2 N's. Alexander, very good. So Alexander says, for example, the Silk Road. And what is the Silk Road, Alexander? It's a very famous trade route, right? Most of us have heard about it. It still exists. Okay. Shiva says that we have import, export of goods, merchandise, transportation. Absolutely, Shiva. Those are some good points. Yep. So this is what Shiva says. Import, export, goods, merchandise, transportation. Ishvan says currency. Alexander says the Silk Road was the route from China to Europe. Yeah, it's a trade route from Asia to Europe. Yep, China in a big way, for sure. Okay. Anything else that comes to mind? How about modern day? Okay, what comes to mind with modern day trading? Okay, so think about the past, think about the present. When you think about the present, the now, what comes to mind with international trade? Alexander says logistics, payments. Okay. MD Asad Uzaman says the Forex, which is the currency exchange. Sure. For me, of course, as many of you know, I live in Canada. So for me, NAFTA. Everybody knows what NAFTA is? Okay. Anybody know what NAFTA is? NAFTA, hopefully a lot of you know what NAFTA is. NAFTA is the North American Free Trade Agreement. Okay. Yeah, Alexander says it's a trade alliance. It's a North American Free Trade Agreement. And this is very important history, everybody. So as many of you know, NAFTA kind of triggered or encouraged the EU. What does it mean to have the formation of the EU, the European Union? Right? The EU was kind of a response to NAFTA and the North American Free Trade Agreement. Students, for those of you sitting the IELTS, it is a really good idea to familiarize yourself with popular common history. Okay, so IELTS candidates should read and learn about history, especially the significant moments of past and present world history. Okay, it's very important. All right. So NAFTA encouraged. What does it mean to have a North American Free Trade Agreement, everybody? All right. And you're thinking, wow, what does this have to do with IELTS listening? Well, IELTS listening targets popular topics that you could easily learn about in school and that have had a major impact on humanity, right? And in the last 50 years, NAFTA certainly has had a big impact on human history. So Alexander says that when you have a free trade agreement, like in NAFTA, free trade agreement, the FTA part, right? It means that there are no trade taxes. Yeah, so countries can trade with each other without tax. Otherwise, you have import and export taxes. Okay. Yeah, so that's a big part, right, of international trade, and it has a major impact on world history. So a lot of what you see happening in the world today, in Europe, in Asia, in North America, the conflicts, the political interactions, they are closely connected or related to these trade agreements. Okay? Keep that in mind. All right, students, so with that in thought, all right, keep this first tip in your head while you are practicing for the IELTS exam. That when you hear the topic, you need to think about, okay, what do I know? What do I know about this topic? So international trade. Okay, there's import, there's export, there's merchandise, there's big transportation vessels like large cargo ships. All right, countries have to pay taxes sometimes to import. Some products are not allowed to be imported and exported. So think about all of those ideas, and then your brain will be able to work much better when you are actually doing your listening. All right, everybody, so we're going to listen. I'm going to play the audio for this. All right. Now, for those of you who have access to our premium course, this is CD5 track 3 because it is the 5th exam and it's section 3. We're going to listen, and I ask you not to put your answers in the chat. Please put your answers on a separate piece of paper or document, and then we will go over the answers together after we do the listening. In this way, we're fair and we give a chance to everybody to answer the questions. If you have a headset, use it. That's what you use in the IELTS exam as well. Okay. Domenico, you're in the same time zone as me. Yes, it's bright and early. Right? Okay. Here we go, everybody. So we're going to go to our website here. Again, this is aehelp.com. The website is filled with materials to help you prepare for the IELTS exam, including computer-based IELTS practice tests, a full interactive course. You've got IELTS exams, workbooks, study plans, and then you have these audio CDs. We're going to CD 5, track 3. Here we go, everybody. Listen and answer. In the IELTS, you have to answer the questions while you listen.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening, section 3. You will hear a forum discussion between the moderator and 2 contributors, Dr. Rachel Young and Dr. Ronald Sturgeon, both political scientists at the local university, talking about trade between countries. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Young and Dr. Sturgeon for taking the time to spend this afternoon with us.
Thank you for having us here today.
Dr. Young, could you give us a little background on the topic of free trade and protectionism, a little history?
Well, countries and nation-states have been participating in free trade schemes for millennia. The ancient Egyptians, for example, participated in trade with the Arabians across the Red Sea over 3,000 years ago. The Roman Empire imported many goods from outside their lands, especially luxury goods such as silk, which were only available in China. Free trade, however, though, has much younger roots.
Could you define free trade and protectionism for us, Dr. Sturgeon?
Free trade is trade between countries without taxes, tariffs, or other regulations attached. Without a free trade agreement, nations charge taxes or tariffs on goods that are imported to their country. This is to protect the manufacturers within their country. If country A, for example, produces a product for a 20% higher cost than country B, country A is likely to impose a tariff on the importation of country B's cheaper product into country A. This is to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers. Free trade advocates want to take down this barrier. In my opinion, advocates of free trade do not care about domestic manufacturers and workers in their own country. I believe their only intention is to maximize profit for big international businesses.
I know Dr. Sturgeon is impassioned about protectionism, but what he fails to mention is that while free trade may lead to some lost jobs in certain sectors, it leads to many other jobs in other sectors. This may be cold comfort to those in, say, manufacturing or textiles, But we must not be blind to the needs of the many and be distracted by the needs of the few. Nobody says free trade between countries is perfect, but it is certainly better than a protectionist framework which costs the country jobs and prosperity. Another point I would like to make is that free trade increases competition and thus lowers the price of many goods. This saves consumers money. Purchasing a car, for example, is much cheaper under free trade agreements. While such agreements may appear undesirable for a British company such as Land Rover, since they are given price disadvantage within the United Kingdom, this is not the whole story. While it is true that the company is at a minor disadvantage within their home country, free trade agreements puts them in an equally advantageous position in other countries in which the UK has a free trade agreement.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
This is a very interesting discussion. Dr. Sturgeon, from reading some of your work, I know you have some ethical concerns about free trade.
Yes, I have a number of ethical concerns. First and foremost, free trade agreements incentivize highly unethical sweatshops. When countries such as the United Kingdom enter free trade agreements with countries with lower human rights standards, we put ourselves at risk of tacitly endorsing those low human rights standards. Is the ability to wear slightly cheaper clothing really worth selling out on one of our most basic beliefs, that people should be treated with respect?
I agree with Dr. Sturgeon that human rights is an ongoing issue in free trade. Certain incidents, such as sweatshops collapsing and killing dozens of workers, have highlighted this issue in the media and public discourse, but these are isolated incidents.
Hardly. These are not isolated at all. And even if such horrible incidents were rare, does it make the conditions those workers work in permissible? Do we excuse horrible working conditions as long as the workers don't die? That's an incredibly low bar, and one I believe we must implore companies and governments to raise.
Okay, let's move on. Dr. Young, do you believe free trade betters the life of the average British citizen?
Absolutely. I believe free trade agreements make us more prosperous as a society. While not perfect, I truly believe pursuing free trade agreements is a positive step in making our world a better place.
Of course, I disagree. While I do not doubt that more wealth comes into our country as a result of free trade agreements, I believe this money never improves the life of the average citizen. The rich get richer and the middle-class workers get laid off. Not to mention the ethical issues I have with this.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, students, so check your answers in that half minute. I'm sure many of you noticed that I was paying attention to certain words during the listening, and I was using different kinds of strategies for different questions to listen and identify the best answers for each of these. Let me just jump back to our website where the audio is
now
coming
turn
from.
to section 4.
And let me just pause that. We're not at section 4 yet. We will be after we look at the questions and the answers. Okay, so let's go back to the part 3 questions here from the top. We've got a few different kinds. We've got fill in the blanks, short answers. We've got a flow chart. Excuse me. I was clearing my throat here. I was out in the cold in the last week and affected my throat a little bit. Okay, so here we've got question 21. So obviously the topic here is free trade and the opposite, which is called protectionism. Now, if you didn't know that word, that's totally fine. You should be able to understand what the word means from the content. Okay, so free trade means a country does not pay tax for export or import. Okay, versus protectionism means countries have to pay tax. Why does the country have to pay a tax? What's the purpose there? You should always have your own answer here from understanding the listening. To get those really high band scores, like band score 8 or 9, you really do have to understand kind of the main ideas of the listening audio. So here you have free trade, and then you have protectionism. So you've got two columns here, right? And basically these two professors are talking about these two systems of trade. And this isn't advanced university. This isn't like third year economics or anything. This is basically high school economics or high school political science or sociology. So you can think about it this way, that you've got free trade, okay, and then you've got protectionism. All right, so one professor figures free trade is better, the other one says protectionism is better. Alexander says protectionism protects the local manufacturers. That's right, Alexander. Very good. Good listening. Excellent. Yeah, so Alexander says protectionism, basically it's called protectionism to protect local producers. Okay, so locals. Yeah. All right. How about free trade? What's the advantage of free trade? Why have free trade? The important point here to everybody is when you know what the listening is about, then you can actually answer a lot of the questions even if you miss the audio. Okay. Hadith says, yeah, this is about free trade versus protectionism. Anahita says free trade is to create a prosperous society. I don't think so, Anahita. That's not the main point. Alexander says it lowers the prices for consumers. Yes, I agree, Alexander. So lower prices. How? Why? So why does free trade lower prices? Okay. Hadith, that's right. That's access to lower prices. Why? When you have free trade within a country, yeah, exactly. Not Min says it's because of more competition. So absolutely, you have greater competition. Okay. So when more people compete, they decrease the prices, and often we sacrifice quality as well, but let's not get into that. So those are kind of the main ideas. You should have understood this from the text, okay? So let's go over the answers now together. Okay, so you don't have to understand every little detail that they talk about. So you don't need to understand, for example, what sweatshops means exactly. But you should understand that, okay, here we've got one person talking about free trade or advocating for free trade, another person about protectionism, the benefits and the negatives of each of these, right? So it's kind of like a debate. Okay. All right, so how long ago was the first record of trade between nations? Okay. Thank you, Bubik. Bubik says the pencil is too thick. Make it thinner. All right, Bubik. Yeah, it was 3,000 years ago. Okay. And you don't need the word years because you have it here in the answers. Okay. So 3,000 years is okay. All right. Alexander, in the actual IELTS, you would just put 3K or 3,000. Here, I would just put 3000. Hadith, 3 centuries ago is wrong. It would be 3 millennia ago. But it's no more than one word. When you see one word, it could be one word or one number. Okay. In this case, it's just one number. It's 3,000. All right. So that is the correct answer. Now, in the next part, we have a flow chart, everybody. When you see a flow chart, you should identify words or pieces that are going to be said in the audio. Okay, and I'll show you how you can do that. So, flowchart type questions. Identify words and phrases that you will hear in the audio to help you position yourself so you can catch answers. Pay attention to numbers and names. Okay, and quotation marks. All right. For example, in this case, you have this one here. Everybody sees that? The level the playing field. Let me do that a little bit differently. Let's do it with this. Yeah, right there. Boom, pink. Okay, so see that when it's the little, I'm doing air quotes, but when you see those quotation marks, it means one of the speakers will say exactly this: level the playing field. Otherwise, they often paraphrase. So the content in the questions, especially in part 3, is not said the same in the audio. They use different words, synonyms. But when you see the quotation mark, it means you're going to hear exactly that. So here, in this case, it's level the playing field. Okay. All right. So pay careful attention to that. Now, before that, you see this country A, okay, and then you see country B, and you also see this number, 20% higher. So country A, country B, those are the names given to these hypothetical countries. And then 20% higher. Really pay attention. Notice how the very first part of the flowchart does not have a question. Usually that's how it is. So usually there will be no question in the first piece, and the reason for that is they want you to position yourself. Okay, so you're paying attention to this and this here. Okay, all right, let's answer these questions. So country A produces a product for 20% higher cost than country B. A company in country A imports the product. If the country does not have a free trade agreement, the company must pay a what? Understanding the content of this, everybody should get this. Elizabeth, unfortunately, taxes will be wrong. Okay. Must pay a tariff or a tax. Yes, tax or tariff. They're the same, so one or the other. So tax is correct and tariff is correct. Taxes is wrong because you have the article here, which means this has to be singular. Okay. All right. You have to be very careful with that. This is to level the playing field for what or for who? Now, we know that this should be a noun. Okay. And what is the noun? That's right, Sagrada. It's domestic manufacturers. Yes. Domestic manufacturers are local producers. Okay. Domestic manufacturer, local producers, those are the people who make the product within the country. All right, then we keep going. If the countries do have a free trade agreement, the company does not have to pay to import the item. Some advocates of protectionism believe free trade advocates are only worried about maximizing something for large corporations. Now, again, when you're paying careful attention, you can probably guess the answer here, even without the listening. Okay? So the answer is, what are they maximizing? They're maximizing what? That's right, Anna. Profit. Now here, you could say profit or profits. Both are okay. Sometimes you can have either singular or plural, but in most cases, it's one or the other. So just be really careful about that. Maximizing profits for large corporations. Profits as a plural makes a little bit more sense because corporations, right, make profits. Each one has their own profit. But you could argue that profit is also correct in this context, so it's fine. Profits is the better choice, though. Okay. All right. So pay attention to those plurals, students. It's so painful when students lose marks because of the plurals. Okay. Number 25 to 26, write no more than 3 words. Always pay attention to the instructions and or a number for each answer. Now here, again, you have to really pay attention. This was kind of an interesting one, this 25. I had a very similar kind of situation or question in my IELTS exam when I sat the real IELTS exam a couple of years ago. Okay, so IELTS likes to have this reversal situation. You're going to see it in this question here. Number 25, some people will lose their jobs under free trade agreements, but we must emphasize the needs of the something and not be sidetracked by the needs of the something. Yeah, so Anna says we must emphasize the needs of the many and not be sidetracked by the needs of the few. I've seen this reversal in both the reading and the listening section in the real IELTS multiple times. So pay attention to this. This is where they kind of make sure that you're reading the questions and listening carefully to the audio. So make sure that when you answer and you give the answers, you always pay attention to the full question. Some people will lose their jobs under free trade agreements, but we must emphasize the needs of the many and not be sidetracked by the needs of the few. If we look at the transcripts, I'll find it here for you. Okay, so in the back of our books, you will always find the transcripts. Transcripts are really, really good to have because you can see what's going on. Okay, you can see here the answer for question 24 is when Dr. Sturgeon says, I believe their only intention is to maximize profit for big international businesses. So here it says big international businesses. In the question, it says large corporations, right? And then Dr. Young, shortly thereafter, says, this may be cold comfort to those in, say, manufacturing or textiles, but we must not be blind to the needs of the many and be distracted by the needs of the few. Okay? So you have that nice paraphrase here for question 25. Right? And in this case, it does actually say many and then few. It's just paraphrased a lot. Okay? And then you have the answer here for 26 as well. So it says, another point I would like to make is that free trade increases competition. Okay? So check the transcripts when you're doing your listening. Okay? Free trade lowers the price of many goods because it increases competition. Very good, Anna. Very good, June. Very good, Roma. Okay, nicely done. All right. Now here we have a little chart that we need to complete. It says write no more than one word for each answer. All right, pay really careful attention to the topics. So here the topic is the cause and the effect. Okay, so something's causing it and the effect. So it's causes and results. So the country enters into a free trade agreement. That's the cause. What's the effect? Jeopardizes human rights standards, right? So what is a human rights standard? Everybody, what is a human rights standard? It's a good expression to know. Human rights or human rights standard. Bargov says it's a value. Alexander says it's the working condition in this case. Always practice your definition, students. A human rights standard is a way that society expects people to be treated in general. Like freedom of speech, right to education, right to healthcare. Okay? Those would be our human rights standards, right? When we believe that every person should have access to medical care. If a person breaks their leg, then they should be taken care of no matter their religion, race, creed, socioeconomic status. Okay? Anahita, if you have access to the premium version of the course, you should definitely have access to this listening. Okay? All right. Yeah, Hadith, exactly. Hadith says, valued regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, and given those freedoms, right? So freedom to education and so on. So those are your human rights standards. Absolutely. Okay, so it says here that free trade agreements jeopardize human rights standards. Now, when you're practicing listening at home, don't just do it blindly, right? Do it with thought. Always engage information. And in this case, if you're in a classroom, you could do a Q&A session, like asking each other questions and answers, right? So why does entering into a free trade agreement result in jeopardizing human rights standards? Let me ask you that. Let's see who understands what you're listening to. Why does entering into a free trade agreement jeopardize human rights standards? Jeopardize means to risk. Why does that happen? Can anybody answer that question for me? Let's see how well you understand this topic. Okay. What's the answer to that? What do you think? So Alexander says because it results in sweatshops, child labor, and low salaries. Yeah, encourage sweatshops, child labor, low salaries. What else? What else does it encourage? And why? Okay. It encourages corruption. For sure. It encourages pollution. Right? Why? Yeah, exactly, Alexander. Yeah, so to increase production and reduce cost, right? Make more, make it cheaper, right? So that's why. Good. Okay, again, the important point here, everybody, is engage. Engage the information, okay? If you don't know what's going on in a listening section, you should not just jump to another listening section. That is a really bad habit for many IELTS test takers, okay? Everybody, this is a really important tip, okay? To get high scores, band 7 or more, let's say band 7 to 9, you have to engage and understand the listening section content. Too many IELTS candidates just try to use quick tricks and jump from one sample exam to another, hoping the marks improve. This doesn't work. Okay, you need to understand the information, and the way to do that is, of course, learning more English, so more vocabulary, more grammar, but it's also to think about the information. So let your brain engage the information, think about it, let it digest the information. Okay, it's very important, right? Okay, here we go. Sweatshops collapse. The conditions are highlighted in the what? Highlighted means that they're shown. I think a couple of you have answered this question here. Who answered it? Let me check the chat here. Excuse me. Hadis and Walpov and Anna and Mariam, Alexander, Segareta. Everybody says media, not social media, just media. Okay. They didn't say social media, so be careful. Yeah, so on the news, right? Sweatshop collapses in Indonesia. A lot of people are injured or deceased. And they show it on the news, right? So it's the media, all right? Can anybody give me an example of a sweatshop that was highlighted in the media recently? Let's see who kind of I don't watch the news, everybody. I'm going to tell you this very honestly. I do not watch the news for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is I just don't have that much time. But even in my bubble, I still hear about some of the kind of mainstream media or situations that are happening in the world. So it's just a matter of keeping your ears a little bit open and paying attention to what people are talking about. Anna says, me too. So I'm not telling you go and watch the news every day, although when you're preparing for the IELTS, it might not be a bad idea. That's right, Alexander. Yeah, that was the big one. I heard about that one too. So Alexander says the Apple factories or sweatshops in China. Yeah. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, everybody hear about that one. I don't watch the news, but I heard about that one. I heard they're pretty bad. I heard they have nets to catch people who are jumping out of windows. That's crazy. So, yeah, Apple factories in China. Which is kind of surprising when you think about how expensive Apple computers are. So Apple computers and Apple products are super expensive, and it's a bit of a shock to discover that Apple has these sweatshops. I think they said that they changed them now, but they have these buildings with no windows, right? So Alexander, you obviously heard about it as well. Okay, and who does Apple have to compete with? PCs, I guess. So strange world we live in. Okay, but yes. Okay, so even though I don't watch the news, just paying attention to the mainstream, to what's out there, you kind of hear about those Apple factories. Okay, here we go. The next one, cause, the realization that such incidences are not isolated. Implore companies and so it's not just 1 in a million. It's not like, oh, we have one bad factory in China. We have lots of these factories, right? Companies and governments, Walpov. That's right, and it is a plural because companies is plural, so governments has to be plural. Very good, Walpov. Yes, Tsegareta, government would be wrong here. Mariam, governments is wrong. Right. Okay, the S has to be here in this case. It has to be plural. Okay, multiple choice questions. I just saw one of our students say, I have difficulty with these. Yes, a lot of people do. So take a look at question 29 to 30. Choose the correct letters A to B. What is Dr. Young's main point in advocating for free trade? Okay. What does the word advocating mean? Okay, I'm going to explain to you how to do multiple choice well. So, first of all, let's just define this word. What does the word advocating mean? Anahita says to defend. Kind of, Anahita. It means to fight for, to support. More, instead of defend, it's more to support. To support, to give credibility. Okay, so when I advocate for it, I'm kind of defending it, Anahita, you're right, but it's more than just defending it. It's like saying we need to do this because it is the right way. Okay, so that's what it means to advocate. Yeah, Hadi's very good. Hadi says a phrasal verb is to stand up for. Is a phrasal verb or an idiom, which means advocate, to stand up for, to support, right? Okay, absolutely. Now, students, multiple choice questions. The number one mistake by candidates for multiple choice questions. Anybody know what is the number one mistake when it comes to multiple choice questions? So this listening question is obviously a multiple choice question. What's the number one mistake? What's the biggest mistake that candidates make when they're doing multiple choice? Yeah, so Anna says they're reading the choices. Yep. Yep, Anahita agrees. Nat agrees. Yep, Kruti, yep. Exactly. Yeah, good. I'm happy to see that many of you know what this is. Yep, absolutely. So the number one mistake by candidates for multiple choice is they stare at the choices hoping that the correct answer will somehow, maybe with keywords, reveal itself. Jump out. Okay. That's the number one mistake. Okay, Bhargav, it's exactly the opposite. So skimming and scanning the answers is the number one mistake. Okay, you could think about it that way. So scanning the answers before listening to the answer. Okay. That's the number one mistake. And I'll tell you why. It's really like some of you are like, well, but no, it's actually really simple here. Take a look. So we've got this multiple choice question, and it says, what is Dr. Young's main point in advocating for free trade? Now, if I'm not listening to Dr. Young's main point, if I'm not paying attention to the audio, but I'm paying attention to these three choices, I've got a lot of content here. First of all, like these are full sentences, right? Free trade agreements are the single biggest economic driver for making. Watch how long it takes me to just read these quickly. Okay. Free trade agreements are the single biggest economic driver for making the world a better place. Free trade agreements are not perfect, but they are a good step towards increasing global welfare. Free trade agreements are not always positive, but can be an important way to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers. By the time I read these to the point where I kind of understand them, the audio might be gone. Like the answer is already gone. I'm like, well, which one did he say? Right? Like, I just read these, but I couldn't hear what he said because I was busy reading them. So you can't do it that way. Okay. You have to listen for the answer. Okay. So you must listen for the answer. And then choose the correct choice. If you don't, especially for these part 3, part 4 multiple choice, it's more or less a guessing game. Now you can also use logic. Okay. And take notes. That's what I did. All right. So when we look at the answers here, it says, what is Dr. Young's main point in advocating for free trade? So what is Dr. Young's main point to say, hey, free trade is good? And I heard him say it's not perfect, but it's a positive step to a better place. So his main point was, hey, free trade is not perfect, but it's kind of stepping in the right direction of where trade should be. So the correct answer here that matches what I just took notes on is B. Free trade agreements are not perfect, but they are a good step towards increasing global welfare. Okay. So for getting multiple choice answers correct, 2 important steps. 1, listen for the answer. 2, take some notes. Okay. 3, use logic. Okay. 29 is B. All right. Number 30. What is Dr. Sturgeon's main point in advocating for protectionism? I also took some notes here, and he it's a tricky one because he doesn't really talk about protectionism directly, but he talks about it indirectly by talking about free trade. He says free trade leads to the rich getting richer and the middle class losing their jobs. So I guess protectionism protects the middle class, protects the local economy. Mr. Yes says, I haven't heard the audio for this. Yeah, it's not direct. It's quite indirect, right? So Dr. Sturgeon says overall wealth is increased in society. I don't think he said that. It doesn't really match with free trade leads to the rich are richer, the middle class lose their jobs. Middle class jobs are the foundation of an economy that works for the few and not just for the domestic manufacturers. I'm not sure about that one. Free trade agreements are bad because they concentrate wealth in the hands of an elite few. And that's kind of what he says, right? Free trade leads the rich to getting richer. So the best answer in this one, it's a tricky one, but the best answer is C. Elizabeth, Anna, 333, Hadith, very good. Yeah, that's the closest one. You're always choosing the best answer. Okay. All right, everybody. Having learned a lot of tips here, let's jump into the next part, which is part 4. We're going to hop back to our website, aehelp.com, for the listening exam. And we will listen and answer the questions. Let's rock and roll. Here we go, everybody.
Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
All 10 coming all at once here. So on the exam, not on the exam, material from the 3rd week of class, material from the current class. It's about Michelangelo, who fortunately I know is a very, very famous sculptor, painter, worked on the Sistine Chapel.
Listening section 4.
He's got some other works, architectural
You will
achievements.
hear a university lecture
so for building
on the famous
servant
artist
of the
Michelangelo.
Papacy, so he was part of the
Now
church
listen
here.
carefully
Literary
and
works
answer
means he was
questions
also a writer.
31 to 40.
Okay.
Good to see you all. As you know, we're having an exam a week from today. Material from today's class will be included on the exam, but material from the final 2 classes of the week will not be included. I hope this will give you an opportunity to revise enough to perform well on the exam. With that administrative business out of the way, I'd like to begin today's lecture on the lesser-known works and endeavors of the famous Italian Renaissance artist Michelangelo. While Michelangelo is best known for his painting of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, he was also the creator of a number of other highly respected works. Among these are the Pietà, a statue of Mary holding a deceased Jesus, and the statue David, said to be the representative of the perfect male form. But Michelangelo was not just a painter and a sculptor. One of his crowning achievements is St. Peter's Basilica, a project he was lead architect on for the 17 years preceding his death in 1564. While the basilica wasn't completed until 1626, over 60 years after his death, Michelangelo's influence on the structure was immense, as he had laid out many plans for the structure during his lifetime, many of which were faithfully carried out under the reign of future popes and future architects. Michelangelo's fingerprints are all over modern Rome, and especially what is today Vatican City. Not only through his paintings, frescoes, and sculptures, but also through his architectural achievements. In addition to his influence on St. Peter's Basilica, Michelangelo also redesigned the famous Capitoline Hill area of Rome and designed many chapels within the walls of the Vatican. Michelangelo was also tasked with a number of pet projects over the years. These projects were not one that the man himself wanted to undertake, but was compelled to because of monetary considerations or simply loyalty to the Pope. For example, when Pope Julius II ordered him to construct a 3 times life-size bronze statue of the Pope, Michelangelo had no choice but to accept. The project took up more than 2 years of his life, and 4 years after its completion, the work was unceremoniously melted down to construct cannons. Additionally, the conditions under which he was made to work were often sorely substandard. For years, he lived and worked with 4 other men in a cramped apartment with little to no privacy and no room for his creative juices to flourish. It is interesting to imagine what a genius such as Michelangelo could have accomplished given reign over his own creativity. I personally believe the world is a poor place for him having not been allowed this luxury. However, on the other hand, perhaps Michelangelo's sometimes tortured life imbued his works of art with something more than just artistic genius. Although Michelangelo is a celebrated figure for his works of art and well respected for this architectural acumen, his literary works are virtually unknown to the world. He was a virtuoso of Renaissance art, celebrated in his lifetime and venerated centuries after his death, but his writings never made an impact on the society in which he lived, nor in the years since. Michelangelo was an avid writer of poetry and found that poetry was an invaluable escape from the grind of his everyday work life, especially during the years spent arduously painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Poetry provided an outlet for his frustrations, fears, beliefs, and desires. Those who want to know the real Michelangelo must go beyond his frescoes and sculptures and dig deep into his personal writings. There, one will find a rather tortured soul, harmed by years of physical, political, professional, and personal strife.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answer.
Okay, again, I'm going to stop the audio here, everybody. And just a reminder, on the website here tomorrow, we're going to do a live class. You can join that live class by clicking this blue button here, the Join Live Class button in your My Student account. For those of you who are new to all of this and where this audio is coming from, it's coming from our website, aehelp.com. And you can join a free or a paid version. Okay, so let's go over these answers to this fourth part and final part of this section, and then we'll talk a little bit about it and check the band scores for you. So you notice that part 4 is continuous, it's fast, it's a university lecture. Usually here it's art history class. I can't remember. But anyway, I think it's an art history class, sociology class. So here we go. Just a couple of quickies at the start here. It says classify the statements below. It's on the exam. It's not on the exam. Material from the third class of the week. Is it on the exam or it's not on the exam? Anna says the answers here are B and A for 31 and 32. Kruti agrees it's B and A. Just watch the numbers there, Kruti. Yeah, so B, not on the exam. A, from this class, it is on the exam. Okay. So all of the material on Michelangelo will be on the exam. So if this were your real class in university, then this material would be on your exam. You would have to take notes and you would have to be able to answer the questions on the exam based on your studies. Okay. All right. So here we go. It's Michelangelo. Now Michelangelo, of course, a very famous Italian or Roman Renaissance artist. Okay. Here we go. Other works. While Michelangelo, and when you have this lecture type like this, you should always follow the text. So read with me. While Michelangelo is perhaps most famous for painting the Sistine Chapel, he is also famous for a number of other highly respected works, including the Pietà and the statue named something. They mention 2 statues. You have to be careful. Hadis, Anna, Kruti, very good. Statue named David. I've actually seen this statue. Quite an impressive statue, I must say. A lot of work. a lot of work in that statue. And very impressive, yes. The statue of David. Thought to symbolize male beauty. Very nice. Yeah, if you ever have the chance in Italy and in France to see some of Michelangelo's works, I highly recommend it. Very impressive. Okay. All right. Architectural achievements. Far more than just a painter, Michelangelo was also an architect. He was lead architect on St. Peter's Basilica for something until his death. Anna says the answer there should be 17 years. Yes, it's correct. You need both words. It's 2 words here. 17 years until his death in 1564. Indeed. Miriam, no, they talk about 2 statues. The first one is Mary, the second one is David, and the correct one was David, and the way we know that is because it says to symbolize male beauty. Okay, we know that it's the second statue, not the first statue. Okay. Mr. Yes says, the question says no more than 2 words. It doesn't say a number. That's actually a weird mistake in the IELTS. You can use a number. So you could write the word 17, but you can use the number as well. Okay, so when you see that, when you see 2 words, it's actually, you could use a number and a word as well. Okay. All right. Though the structure was not completed until 60 years after his death, his fingerprints are all over the resulting structure because future something and something faithfully carried out his designs. Okay, the answer here is popes. Now, if you're like, well, what's a pope? It's here too, so you shouldn't have to misspell that. You can see that it's capital P and it's with an S. Tsegareta, make sure you capitalize that P. Pope is a title that is capitalized. It's a unique one. And it's not architectures, it's architects. The human noun is architects. Okay. Architecture is the subject noun. Architects is the person noun. Okay. So make sure you write architects. All right. So popes and architects. Now, here we go. Sometimes this was an important work, though sometimes it was rather pointless. He once built a something of the Pope. Now, ideally, you wrote bronze statue, right? So, bronze statue of the Pope. A huge bronze statue is 3 times the size of the Pope. He once built a bronze statue of the Pope only to see it melted down for cannon parts just a few years later. Well, that was a bad idea. That bronze statue would be worth millions of dollars today, as where the cannon no longer exists, but that's humanity. Okay. Question 36. Miriam says, we missed question 36. Michelangelo's influence is also apparent around the rest of the city of something. And you're right, Miriam. We don't want to miss questions. Make sure you're paying attention. Good on you, Miriam, for catching that. Including at the ancient Capitoline Hill site. What city? What city are we talking about here? It's a very famous city. Miriam says, that's why you shouldn't miss it, because I have the right answer for it. And you do, Miriam. It's Rome. Now, it's the name of a city. It has to be a big R. I have been to Rome. Beautiful city. Incredible city. I highly recommend visiting Rome. Not Vatican. Vatican is within Rome. But it's not just the Vatican. It's also Rome. So the rest of the city of Rome. Okay. All right. Moreover, the something he had to work in were often substandard. Number 38. The conditions. That should have been an easy one. You just have to catch the word, or you have to figure out that that makes sense. So the conditions he had to work in were often substandard, often being forced to live and work in small, cramped places with a number of other men. Poor guy, he's making all this amazing art and then they don't even give him his own room? I guess they probably had a free trade agreement with another country, right? Rome's like, we have free trade for art and artisans, so even our most famous artists have to live in a little shoebox. Poor guy. Just imagine Michelangelo. All of his paintings and statues together are priceless, worth like $1 billion, and I had to live in a shoebox. It's terrible. Humanity. Come on, we got to figure this out. Okay. Literary works. It is interesting to think what he could have made if he was given the freedom to explore his own creativity. That's right. Many of you got that. Very nice. While his life may have been difficult, some people argue that this difficulty made him a better artist. So maybe that's why they did it. They're like, hey, you're a good artist. Let's put you in a shoebox so that you can be a better artist. Kruti says number 40 is poetry. It is. He wrote poems. He's like, well, my life is terrible. I have a beautiful painting, but I live in a shoebox. Poetry was an important way to escape the difficulties of life for Michelangelo. Though his writings never made much of an artistic impact, they do offer a window into his tortured genius. All right, students, add up your scores. How did you do? What did you get out of 40, especially if you were here about 10 days ago for part 1 and part 2? So let me ask you this. How did you do in this? What did you get from 40? What did you get from 20? Anna says, I got 9 out of 10 on that. That's really good. Anna says, I got 27 out of 40 on that listening exam. And a 9 out of 10 for part 4, that was amazing. Hadi says, I wasn't here last week, but I got 17 out of 20 for these two. Kruti says the same. That's really good. If you can get 17 out of 20, Anna, same thing for parts 3 and 4. That's really good. Okay. By the way, students, just a quick FYI, on the website at the very, very bottom there, you have a score calculator. I'll put the URL into the chat there for you. And then you can actually like do your calculations. So you can be like, I got 27. That's a band 6.5. Okay. Or if you're like, well, I got 32. It's a band 7.5. Okay. All right. So that's the website, everybody. Make sure to check out the website. And yeah, definitely sign up for the premium version of the course. The premium version, you get all 6 of our practice exams. We've got 4 more coming here. And you can sign up for it by clicking the big red button there to join the premium version. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. Okay. So make sure to do it and use it every day, and you will benefit. You will improve your IELTS scores. You will improve your English. For general IELTS students, it's gieltshelp.com. It's right here. It's the green background, and you got to kind of click those big red buttons to join the premium version. I'm going to come back in 40 minutes, everybody, to the website, to aehelp.com. In your My Student account, everyone, you have the join live class button that's just above my head there. I'm going to host a live class for speaking, and we're going to use this function for that class, the student partner speaking, so I can actually talk with you through the microphone and practice. Okay. You're very welcome, Anna and Elizabeth. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Thank you, subscribers. This was a subscribers chat class. Okay. The next speaking topic, just to get you thinking about it, it's a speaking class. The speaking class is a person you know who is good with computers. So it's like a computer whiz. Okay. The next speaking class, June, is coming up in 40 minutes. It's in 40 minutes. It's on the website. Okay. When you click that button, the join live class, it will activate. It will become like this, like YouTube. Okay. All right, everybody. I will see you in that class. So I will be back in 40 minutes on the website, not on YouTube, but on the website with those live classes. So go to aehelp.com, register a free or a paid account, join that class, talk to me, practice your speaking. For those of you who are like, no, just get the premium version. Why not? It doesn't cost a lot of money. Use the code IMAGINE9. You'll get another 10% kickback. Okay. From the cost of the full course. IELTS students, you can access it also. Just go to IELTShelp.com if you need the full course, get it from there, and then you can access the live class just the same through aehelp.com. Okay, just create a free account there. Okay. Kang says, I got 8.5 in listening, but how can I know my raw score? Kang, you can't know your raw score. IELTS will not tell you your raw score, but you do know that it's somewhere from like the 36 to 38 range, I believe. You can check it on the website. Okay. All right, everybody. Back in 38 minutes now, to be exact. I had a great time with you in this listening section IELTS class, and I look forward to seeing all of you very, very soon. Much love to everybody. Stay focused. Be you. Be happy. And I'll see you soon. Bye for now.